Hey everyone, what's up? Don here. So just a quick intro. We're gonna change it up a bit more. We're doing a bit more production quality. I'm taking over the reins, and we'll see what we can go with it. So today's episode we filmed in Las Vegas in our hotel room. You'll see the video there. We've got new mics. We've got new lapel mics. So let's see where this goes. And it's just some really cool insights and updates from. We were over in Phoenix for a 3-day conference, and it was so cool. We got so much to share from it. But today's one is just about breakthroughs and authenticity and actually defining it, because I thought I knew what that meant until you have a breakthrough and you're like, wow, there's so much more to it. So it just really does lead you down this really cool, insightful conversation that we hope you guys take a lot away from, because that's the whole point, right? Add as much value as possible with the time that you give us to listen. All right, have a great day. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with Don and
Ray.
So I know that it is if you're watching the video, guys, we're in a different scenario. We're currently in a hotel in Las Vegas with a beautiful picture behind us, and we thought, in terms of consistency, we're recording to release, and this is probably one of the most present updates that we would have done in a while.
Yes.
So today is just about what are we doing in Vegas, what have we learned, and what are the biggest takeaways. So for you guys that have just joined us, it's awesome to have you part of the journey. I think big things for 2025. I feel like we're going in that hype of everyone is.
It's December 2024.
But we want to get on board with you too. So the reason I think New Year's resolutions and things are really good to pay attention to and not just brush off is because if not at New Year's, then when? If you want to get a collective motivation to do something, find the people that are serious about making the changes for them and join in with them now. So start looking now. So it's December 9. Start to look for your people now. So that you don't start on the 1st of January and go, okay, now I'm going to do this all on my own. Because trust me, you can do it on your own. You're going to learn a lot more, but you're going to have a much deeper desire and a lot less outside influences to help you keep going.
And isn't that what Ubuntu stands for? I feel like you do it do it alone.
I am because we are.
Oh, but is that a different phrase? The one do it alone and you'll only go so far, but do it together and you'll go so far.
No, so that one is if you go alone, you go fast.
Okay.
But if you go together, you go far.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
So, and again, it's an African proverb. So Ubuntu is the African proverb. That one is interesting because people go, but I want to go fast. Remember, fast doesn't give a timeline. So do you want to be successful in the next week? Go alone. If you want to be successful in the next year, go together. If you want to be, you can go alone for a year, it'd be harder. But if you want to be successful, if you define success as long term, go together, get part of a community. And that's a big one that I've probably come away with in the last 4 days.
We've just come back. So we're in Vegas, America, Las Vegas.
America.
Exciting to have been here, bit of a bucket list ticked off. But we have just come from Phoenix, Arizona, in the middle of the desert. Why did we end up there? Everyone's like, where are you going? We're going to Phoenix. And they're like, oh, where's that? Because we've just come back from a 3-day conference.
A 3-day digital CEO conference.
Digital CEO conference. So it was working on our business, but also a huge majority of the event, and we knew this going there, was working on ourselves, personal development.
Isn't that the same thing though?
Hey, it's the same thing. But so hopefully, not only are these conferences amazing for the investment that we put in ourselves and our business, that's Don and I, but we are able to learn really amazing tools and techniques and just thought processes that we can then share with you on this podcast. So by going to these events, we get really excited for what we can now offer you guys in terms of some of the, I want to say cutting edge, but that sounds a bit lame, but in terms of some of the latest and thought patterns, and because we were in a room of 1,000
other coaches,
people, and it's not just about 1,000 people. There were 50 plus really inspirational business owners.
Super successful. So
successful. Yeah. They are the multi-6-figure or 7-figure. And it's not just that they're 7-figure. It's that they're 7-figure and 7-figure, their revenue, what they earn in their business, not necessarily their profit, but is in the millions. And they don't work crazy hours. They are calm, centered, like lovely personality people, and they are there telling their story, and so we've learned so much from them.
And I suppose someone goes, yeah, but that's what you just see on stage. And I think, so just to lay that up, is when you actually talk to them in person, you know, when you can tell someone that's successful but they're stressed, they got something in their mind,
Yes.
they're not present,
They're always
like,
on the go.
they are genuine, like they're open, they
have so
open
much
their
to
energy
give.
to you, and they're just like, oh, this is amazing, and they take time to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, yes, okay, everyone's different at home to a degree, but sometimes you can't fake it. And if they're making that much money and still able to be that kind of person, it's a really good reflection, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think what might be safe is if we start with maybe our biggest 1 or 2 takeaways each.
Well, you're putting me on the spot, Johnny, when you have to think of that.
Well, of course, I put people on the spot all the time. So, because we can talk for ages and probably going to trickle out a lot of those things as we go. But, I mean, I don't mind starting if you want to.
I'm trying to think of what mine would be, because there were so many takeaways.
Okay, so I'll take, my first one was, it was speaking about, you know, there's a big theme, say in leadership and in life in general, about authenticity. And I've always thought, like, yeah, I'm quite authentic. I feel like I am, right?
Yeah.
And yes, but it wasn't authentic in all of you. So we've had, say, like Craig Louis Lewis, who I did that the podcast with.
It was an episode about 5 episodes ago.
When I talk about authenticity, like he goes back into his past and he's like, I was that, I own this. Like he doesn't hold anything back. Whereas I feel like, and I didn't realize it till now, is like if I went into my past, I'd tell you a filtered version of like the things I think you want to hear. Not because I'm scared of it, because I'm like, oh, but what does it matter? So I'm able to be authentic in the present, like in the moment now. You talk to me, like, I'll give you all the energy you want, but not authentic in my past. So it was about like a fractured, I think my biggest thing was like fractured identity. Is like you can start to build up this identity, but if you think you can build up your current identity and leave the past behind, it's always going to be fractured, and there's always going to be something there. So my first big takeaway was like, look back into your past and don't wince away from it. Don't be ashamed of it. Go, that is me. And by the way, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't undo the past. So you may as well own it authentically, because that then gives you this next level of like, people are like, wow, he tells that story and he doesn't feel ashamed by it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't identify that till this weekend.
And I think it's, before we carry on with the takeaways, I would like to just sort of pause at this point and actually tell Don's story, like the very specific story of what happened and how this takeaway that you could have just walked away from that event with saying, that's a great takeaway for me to use, kind of exploded into like it like exploded into making you realize this is something huge, not just a minor takeaway, and it inspired so many other people in the room. So basically, you're sitting in this huge conference room in a bigger hotel, 1,000 people, and every day, about 2 or 3 times a day, because these were like 10, 11-hour long days of content. People get an opportunity to put their hand up and then share a takeaway or an experience they've had from the lessons
or
so
breakthrough.
far, or breakthrough.
Yeah,
they were called breakthroughs. And Don and I had just been sitting there passively observing.
And when I first heard breakthroughs, I was like, come on, like you can't.
Yeah.
Come on.
And
when we first got there,
you were like, well, these people, like, yeah, it just feels engineered or whatever. And so passively just observing, like we were obviously actively involved in the content, but we were like holding ourselves back a bit, reserved.
Yeah.
And Don had said, or you kind of said to me, kept saying that you felt like you wanted, it was day 3 and you really wanted to put yourself out there more, make sure you got more out of this conference. I was like, well, what's something you want to do? And you're like, I can't remember how you phrased it to me, but I knew you wanted to be more involved. So the next time, it actually happened to be the last time of the conference, that it was an opportunity to put up your breakthroughs. I turned to Don and I said, oh, what's your breakthrough? I was teeing him up. He didn't know. So he tells me his breakthrough. I'm like, oh, well, then you better just put your hand up. And he was like, what? I'm like, off you go, put your hand up. So he puts his hand up, and he is, and like people, every time there was an opportunity to share a breakthrough, 40, 50 people plus would put their hands up. So it's very unlikely you get chosen.
And they didn't come to our side of it because we always sat on the right side.
Yes, and the moment Don's hand went up, James Wedmore, who was the main organizer of the event,
thanks,
on
James.
stage
If you listen to this, I appreciate you. Right?
Turned and like that guy with the hat,
on,
grey
yeah.
cap, and I was like, oh my goodness. So then I'll let you take over.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a few things to that, but I'll keep it present. Is they have this like sponge microphone, which is really cool.
Like a
I'm going to go
box.
find them.
Yeah.
So it's like a sponge dice, but the mic's inside it. So you speak into it. So you can throw this thing as hard as you want against the
Across
wall,
the room, yeah.
and the sponge protects the mic. So the lady that was in front of me that had just done her breakthrough,
Like
and-
20 meters in front of you.
she throws it, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to catch this, and I drop it, and I was like, oh. So I pick it up, like the irony that I just dropped that, and you'll find out why. And so my heart's still pumping, and I'm like, this is why. I'm like, why am I scared here? Like, why am I nervous here? So I said, and I start to talk about like, oh, one of my biggest breakthroughs is I used to be a professional rugby player, and then I almost like this big ball of emotion came up, and I was like, oh,
tearing.
and I was like, hold on. This is a rugby player. I can't do this, right? And then I just said, and I just felt like I haven't fully. I've known it's there, but I've never fully allowed it to be still me because I've tried so hard since retiring
To escape that identity.
to escape that identity, because obviously identity human, and prove that Don. Not Don the rugby player or Don the this or Don the like the guy with the psychology degree. It was just Don. Like I wanted it to be me, not me as the husband or me as the
Those are part of you.
yeah, of course.
But
and
yeah.
the whole direction is about like trying to prove that you going into all those things is good. But what I realized was like you can't just neglect those. You have to embrace them, because I would sometimes leave that behind. So it's about like then going, I've been denying a big part of who I am to build me up and actually take me forward, because I felt like if I bring that in, I'm then back to that. But actually it's not. It's like it's still a part of me, and I can still, get the right energies from the right thing and just embrace it all. And so that was...
So yeah, he shared that, and you only spoke for like 30 seconds.
And I put my power stuff on. So as in like my grey jeans, my white long shirt,
Oh, he has like his
shirt,
power outfit.
and my backwards cap. And that was only, I'd saved that for the last day.
And basically, like there were big whoops. Everyone was like, "Wow!" Like
Yeah.
they were just. I suppose it's because they saw this big guy being
Rugby
vulnerable,
player,
and actually, it was a big identity piece. Anyway, so then throughout the last couple of days of the conference, they had this. You had this opportunity to share your send your photo with your breakthrough typed up. Like everyone could do it, and they were going to select like the winner for the biggest breakthrough. And I just said to Don, well, here we go, here's the link.
So she tapped me, she's like, have you done this? I was like, no, I haven't done it. So
I was like, well, you better do it. Just share your biggest breakthrough. You just never know. And yeah.
no, then they announced the winners at the end.
And
And
at
I'm
the
like
end.
typing. I've had this other thing come to me, and I'm like, oh, this thing
Busy
about power
typing.
and control. And I'm like writing. And then they read the first person out, which was like biggest breakthrough or something like
No,
that.
they had different,
So there's like 3 categories. Clap, clap, they weren't there. And then they started out, as a professional rugby player, I was like, oh, that's me. And then everyone was like, because everyone knew, because there wasn't many other professional rugby players there.
Yes.
And then they read out my thing, so I got up and got to go. Everyone was
an
like
award
clapping and
and
cheering. I got to
everything.
go up on stage and get an award, it's like the high fives and everything. And it was just like
It was almost like, I know that the story maybe on its own doesn't sound that impressive, but it was just like, it's almost one of those things like it was meant to be. Like Don had kind of tongue in cheek a bit said his goal was to get up on stage.
it wasn't tongue in cheek, and that was in a year's time.
I know, but it was like he literally just put his hand up there, got chosen straight away, and then of all the 1,000 people in the room to be selected, it was just like it was just surprising.
Yeah.
And I think I've really but actually the point that I think is important to mention is when you first shared your breakthrough in the morning, and then this was announced in the afternoon or the evening, just so many people shared their breakthroughs, okay? But you just had so many people come up to you afterwards about how much your breakthrough moved them and touched them, and they all had different reasons for connecting. And I tell you, for the rest of that day, and even after, obviously there were more people after it was announced too, you had so many people coming up to you just saying how much you sharing your breakthrough meant to them.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real sign for you where I know we often get comments on this podcast that we are quite willing to share and be raw and honest. We get
in
comments
the
like
present,
that.
yeah.
But I think there's a lot that we still hold back.
Yes.
And I have, if we talk about breakthrough, I have like things, yeah. So there's a lot that we still hold
See, she
back.
did it right there. I have it. Yeah, we'll move on.
And so I think that for us was like leaning even more into your authentic self. And this applies to all of you listening. And I think you can, and this also just shows that the personal growth journey is never ending. You're always going to find, like an onion, more layers that you need to peel away. And everyday life adds layers on that you're going to have to peel away. It's a lifelong pursuit. But at least if you're in the pursuit of it, you are heading towards the direction you want to be rather than staying stagnant. So yeah, it was like we've been really authentic, but there's been layers that we've hidden behind.
But presently authentic.
Yes.
So like we're not scared to like, oh look, we're in a hotel. This is like, it doesn't bother us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh look, we beatbox in an intro, because that's all. That is what it is. We're just putting it out there, but we haven't talked about much past. So your breakthrough or your takeaway. Sorry, you weren't doing breakthroughs.
I feel, and maybe it actually was a theme for you too. I feel like a lot of the breakthroughs or takeaways that I had from the event were things that I've been working on and been aware that I need to work on, and the event just really helped me to get answers to those or put it to light, which is actually, if you think about it, similar to your rugby stuff, because you've been wrestling with this idea of should rugby be a part of what you put out there or not, okay? And that, so for me, 2024 has been a journey, and it started all the way in January, of trying to get some answers to health niggles that I've had, and I've spoken about it in previous episodes, and just trying to identify where these health triggers are coming from. And then also, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but on a previous episode, but I also seem to carry inside of me, as much as I'm a happy person and have a happy family and stuff, I carry a lot of like anger inside of me. So it's just like this ball of anger that I feel like lives in my chest a lot of the time, and I don't know where it comes from. So I've been really trying to search for that. And obviously, if you're going to go to a 3-day conference, and it was an amazing conference.
Yeah, there was some really
So
cool
it wasn't
stuff.
just that you're there, because it was amazing, insightful opportunities. I think you're going to, if you are searching for those answers, you're going to find them. So for me, like one of my big takeaways was, there was this amazing speaker, I think he was one of our favorites, both of us, Dr. Don Wood, around, and I'm
neuroscience,
but around how trauma, it's about that he called it emotional concussions. And so they're little events that have happened in life. It could be a big thing. So like in the extreme case, his daughter had been sexually abused, and by someone outside of their family. They only discovered basically their daughter in her late teens developed like multiple.
She had Crohn's,
an
autoimmune disorder,
diseases,
and then she got another one on top of that.
And the doctors basically said
they don't know where it's come from.
She's going to have to live by a hospital. They don't know.
Oh, she got one where her lungs filled up with blood.
Yeah, and her dad then in his 50s, 60s, whatever, went and started studying.
He got a
because
master's
or PhD.
Or PhD, yeah.
He wanted to find an answer. And anyway, we don't want to go a long story, but the outcome of that was he discovered that sexual abuse is one of the worst and can lead to these very big diseases that can actually like almost kill you. But all of us, if we carry any traumatic events, and it can be quite minor traumatic things. He spoke about how one girl was told in church, she was smacked on the head by her granny.
Yeah.
And then she never wanted to speak, and it came out as like sickness.
So that was a minor.
And so a minor thing. So it can be from sexual abuse to being shouted at. So it can
was
be
that there was the PTSD one that came in? She'd had PTSD for like 8 years, couldn't get rid of it, and then
that was a bombing one.
Oh, that was the Boston bombing.
Boston bombing. So there's various. You could think bombings. You could think sexual abuse, and you might be like, kind of like Donna. I had a good childhood. I didn't have anything massively traumatic. But if you can work on yourself and dig deeper, you might find some answers. And for me, it was just around this. I think there's a few things that I've kind of just been like, I'm a strong, independent person that I thought I'd overcome. But actually, when I think back to those events, I tear up. And I feel this huge ball of emotion, which means that I actually haven't really worked through them. So my biggest takeaway was looking back at those. So like, I don't want to make this a whole, I'm on a monologue here. But I'll rattle off, and maybe another episode we could go into more detail.
Yeah.
But like things like I was born with these venous malformations all over my face, various issues around my face. I've had like 8 or 9 surgeries now to fix different issues. And some of those surgeries were very painful and traumatic. And actually, I think there's a lot in my life. At the moment I get sick, I'm almost creating this loop of like issues, and I have like this fear and this like whole body response to really small medical things that happen to me. And it's like, Dr. Don Wood explains it like really well about how the loop that your body goes through, and how your body then, and it causes chronic inflammation. So without this becoming a podcast about that, that was my huge takeaway, is like, I'm already working on that, but it really actually highlighted to me that things that I thought I'd either overcome or weren't causing an issue in my now, I'm going to have to go work on those, because they're giving me this anger, sometimes where I've experienced anxiety in recent years. I think if I really think back and think what gives me the biggest emotional reactions, it's those events that I'm almost trying to avoid in adulthood. So that was a huge takeaway for me. So I feel like Don's come out of this event being like, there's some really big business breakthroughs and takeaways. I mixed the two words there.
It works.
I have really come away with being like, I know I need to do a lot more work on me and healing me before I step into the next level of business. Because I already have a successful accounting practice that I could grow further. But I don't think I should push my body to that next level of growth until I feel more centered and stable.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll withhold my opinion. No, and it's true, but you're living the message that we're trying to create, is you can't grow your business if you don't grow you. And that's what you're living. And we have to go through it to be authentic in knowing when we're asking other people to do the same thing, why. And I think that's it. Like that's a very strong message, I think. So thanks for sharing.
But I think, so you say share two breakthroughs. I feel like that's my big one.
I wasn't going to do another breakthrough, I don't think, because those are two big messages. I think just on the whole, we'll start to wrap it up now, because this wasn't always meant to be a long one today, is what's next? Like I said, 2025 is going to be a big year. And I think everyone I'm for the first time buying into that momentum, because I think, one takeaway for me was going to this event was like, it's a room full of everyone else doing very similar things. Mm-hmm. And I said to Ray this morning, I was like, I feel like I didn't put my foot in the door when we first started this. Previously, so I wasn't previously I wasn't even considering myself as a coach.
You're watching on the outside.
You go into business like, you're not a coach, are you? So always like, I'm not a coach. But actually it's part, I can walk into that as Don and be Don the coach. The same way that as Don the rugby player is part of who I was. And it's about buying into that, like getting involved in the groups. Like Ray's better than that I am. She was already in WhatsApp groups and she chatted to people before we got you. I hadn't chatted to anyone. Whereas like now I'm like, okay, who's doing a WhatsApp group? What people can I connect with? I'm following them all on Instagram because I want to genuinely watch them grow, because I want to be part of that momentum.
And so that was almost like, you spoke about your breakthrough being like an identity that you wanted to leave behind because you wanted to be just Don. But yet, at the same time, there was an identity you needed to step into, and that was that coach.
Yeah.
Where you're like, no. And you wanted so you've almost like rejected these other identities. And I don't know how that would fit into your identity human model.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's maybe a little nuanced piece where, yes, you need to be done without those identities, but you shouldn't be completely rejecting those identities.
So this is it. I'll tell you exactly. In that identity model, right? Let's say Ray as a mom. If you are so set on Ray, that means that you're never embracing the mom side of you. But actually, you take the best of Ray into mom.
Yeah.
And then the best of mom comes into Ray, and you go, yes, I am a loving person. I am. And that's how you vet it. So it is about, it's like, when I look back at it, like the energy state and how it all flows, the answer's already there. I think, but for me specifically, it was like, it was gating, it was blocking off any energy, not just the positive.
Because a big theme of 24 is you're just like, you're like, I just want to be happy with me. But just maybe because you were rejecting those other identities.
Yes. Yeah. And then if you reject the one part of it, you don't realize that you might be rejecting all of it. And it's a different level.
And you were like, that saying of like a lighthouse. You were isolating yourself. So because you were rejecting those identities, you weren't necessarily able to find communities that you could lean on.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. So I was like, I can just do this on my own, which you can, but it's not as good. And you have to learn. I have to still.
So subtle, yeah.
Yeah, it's subtle. I still have to learn to be vulnerable enough to introduce myself and and go, actually, when I talk here, people want to hear me talk, because a part of that was like, well, maybe I'm not important in this group. Do you know what I mean? Because you're like, I'm on the outside.
Yeah.
But fully buying into it. So, yeah.
I liked where you were going with 2025 about like, because for us, we really feel so excited. We've got like some clear work-ons for 2025. And what I want us just to bring it at this point, if you're happy to, is talk about how can we help our listeners prepare for 2025, and we have the exciting episodes of 12
I was going to go
days.
even further than that. So you got 12 days of Christmas.
We both have.
In your head.
Yes.
In my head, I'm already saying like, we're going to launch the next course in January.
We've got both, yeah.
So like, we're going to do the challenges. We're going to start to send.
Let's do an order of time.
Wait, no, let me go.
Oh, you want to do that?
I want to go with this. We're going to do some launches. I already have 2 people that have said I want to be on that.
Amazing.
So we're going to do the 5-day challenges. We're going to do the launch. I'm going to start to really annoy you guys, sending you to that place. But this is me stepping into it. Like when we used to be like, oh Ray, why are you talking about the course? Why are you selling? But actually it's not selling. It's like, I know that if you want to make a difference for yourself in 2025, I know that we're well poised to be able to help you with that. And there's a big shift in that. So the 12 days of Christmas, back to you now. So
basically, if we're sitting now early December 2024, and we've got a journey that we are teeing you up for. And don't worry, we're not saying that you need to invest money in us to come on this journey. We very much want to put out a lot of amazing content and value out there so that you can go on a journey yourself. And when you are ready, we have a container that you can step into. Okay.
Well, it's not a container, because that sounds like
a container, like a core.
We've got this oasis.
An oasis, yes.
It's got palms and it's got a nice fountain. So basically, we haven't decided on the release date, but sometime around Christmas, we're going to release 12 podcast episodes, or 12 days in a row. And those are going to take you on a journey of really they're just going to be short 15-minute snappy episodes, giving you some real food for thought and some little challenges that you can do, like little 5-minute activities to get you set up for 25. That's then going to lead into the 5-day challenge that we run every few months. And this challenge is an intensive there's an hour of live videos each day that you ideally should watch. And we give you a really immersive challenge and journey to go through for 5 days. We'll take you out your comfort zone.
Okay. And even if you just did those 2 things, you are going to feel so poised for a great year. At the end of the 5-day challenge, we'll tell you about our Unshakable program.
And at the beginning.
And throughout. But there's no obligation about it. Please come and join us on this journey. Get your friends involved. And we would love to see you there.
Well, I think that's the thing is, the 12 days of Christmas and the 5-day challenge, it's accessible to everyone, because if the course isn't for you, you'll know someone that it is for. And that's the best way. It's like, we'll give you as much value as possible so that you can get someone else that might need it more than you. Or you.
The course may not be ready for you right now. And that's why we say consume our stuff. It's going to tee you up. And when the time is right, then you could step in if that's what you want.
Yeah, I agree. So
cool.
Yeah.
So excited about that. And
the next time you see us, we're back in the studio. I'm going to be fully immersing myself into the editing of the podcast and everything that comes with it. So we've got new mics,
which we're super excited about.
So the sound of this might be terrible. It might be fantastic. Who knows?
We're excited to see.
But let's see where this goes. So, and I suppose it's just getting the ending here is back into what's the journey of the podcast is. We've come from me beatboxing to this to we'll have a lot more ad hoc scenery. But what comes next? I'm not sure. I'm quite excited about it. I'm not going to lie. I already think about different ways of editing it. How do we make it more appealing? Actually, or does it need to be? Or do we just keep it raw? Who knows? But you guys are on the journey, and that's the point.
Love feedback in the comments.
Yeah, we do have some of you that comment, and it's amazing to see because we know which touch points. We see some of the stats, and we see the audience. It's really cool. But I suppose for me, you've made it this far, even in this episode. So I really appreciate you being part of this journey because you guys have seen where it started, where it is now. And if you're just joining now, you're going to see where it's going to go. I think that's the whole point in life is you can see someone standing on stage once they've made it and go I want to be like that, but where did they start? And this is what we're offering is we've offered you the start. You go back to episode 1 and it's me literally, it's not terrible, it's authentic. I'm reading out of a book and I'm the notes don't flow and all that, but it's there. And it was actually had a lot of people listening to it, funny enough, because I think the title was really good. But it's all there, like that part of the journey. So if you wanted to start a podcast, go back to episode 1 and just start. Like, don't try and make everything perfect. Just troubleshoot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right. So thank you very much, everyone. This is Don and Ray signing off from one last time in Vegas, this time in America. But remember, I'll work on me for you. You can work on you for me, because Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. Right. Have a great day.